All right, Shalom. All praises to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahushai, Bahasham, Kakadash, the belongs, the elders, and the apostles, the great millstone, who willing to dwell who taught us his truth. This is your brother Yashimai from the GMS Atlanta camp. And I just want to do a quick video, something that came into mind that, proves that scripture, everything in the scriptures has always been for the Hebrew Israelites. And that would be the so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. Okay, and so we're gonna get some understanding on some of the more well-known scriptures that Christians use, but we're gonna get the correct understanding, and maybe we can take care of these strongholds that plague our people. So first and foremost, let's get 1 Corinthians 15:39, and the scripture reads as follows. It says, "All flesh is not the same flesh, but there is one kind of flesh of men, another flesh of beasts, another of fishes, and another of birds. There are also celestial bodies and bodies terrestrial, but the glory of the celestial is one, and the glory of the terrestrial is another." So this precept is brought up because the Most High does things in pairs. All right. Doesn't Proverbs 11 verse 1 say false balance is an abomination to the Most High? Isaiah says that he creates life, talking about Yahweh Shai. The Most High creates life and he creates death. So he's done both things. So there's always a separation. And there are many scriptures. Second Ezra goes into it. Second Ezra's, what is that, 6? Though we all come from Adam, though the nations are like unto spittle. Furthermore, in that same book, it talks about the Most High having his favorite pit, which is Israel, his favorite lily. So there's always a separation, okay? And I really like what verse 40 says, because the celestial body it says, "To the glory of the celestial is one, and the glory of the terrestrial is another." And we see a perfect example of this because the Hebrew Israelites, first and foremost, the 144,000 and the innumerable multitude, those are the celestials. We have one glory, but that glory is yet to be seen in front of the entire nations on this side of the earth. And the terrestrial, which would be, first and foremost, Esau, Edom, and then the other nations mentioned in Psalms, the 83rd chapter, those terrestrials, they have their own glory. And what is that? Is that, what does Deuteronomy 28 say? "The heathen that is among you shall get above thee." Their glory is here. Esau's glory is the fatness of this earth, as mentioned in Genesis 27. All right, so there's a separation. Okay, now with that foundation laid, understanding that the scriptures tell us that there's a separation, then comes the revealing. Okay, and this is an oldie but goodie, and no disrespect unto the scriptures, because no scripture is old. They're all good. It's just a terminology. Amos 3:7. "Surely the Most High, Yahweh Shem Yahushai, will do nothing, but he revealeth his secret unto his servants, the prophets." And so now, having the 100% truth, all right, and by the way, having the 100% truth isn't something that we got on our own, because the truth is made manifest unto the world, but they cannot, attain it. John wrote about that. "The light was made manifest unto the world, and the world understood it not." So we didn't get this truth because of, once we got to the 100th video. No, we got this truth because, the Spirit started to deal with us. Revelations 11, verse 11 goes into that, about the Spirit being breathed back into us. Now we have the understanding. All right. So I bring this up because with the foundational scripture, Amos 3:7 shows us that Yahweh Hashem Yahushai reveals his secrets unto the people that he's dealing with. Okay? Now, from here, Matter of fact, yeah, let's do that. I was going to get this last, but, continuing on in the same accord, this is John 12 and 29. It says, the people, well, let's get verse 28. It says, Father, glorify thy name. Then came there a voice from heaven saying, I have both glorified it and will glorify it again. So we understand that this is Yahweh Shai speaking to Yahweh the Father, okay? Which we know that there is a separation, right? So now we have the context, but this is the point of the matter for this video. The people, therefore, that stood by and heard it said that it thundered. Others said an angel spake to him. So what do we see here? We see the Most High speaking to Yahweh Shai, but two people heard, but there was two different things that people heard. Some heard thundering, and some actually heard an angel speaking to him. Which we know it was Yahweh the Father. But the point here is this: is that there was a lot of people around Yahweh Shai, and not everyone got it. To some, it was a mystery, which was that thunder, and to others, they heard it. All right, and so what separated the group that heard the voice and the group that heard thunder? Well, Ephesians 1 verse 4 goes into it, man, because there are certain select souls that have been set up to be saved since the foundations of the earth, man. It, it is nothing upon it is nothing that we do and everything that Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai did. Okay? And here we see a perfect example of it. So with that, let's go over here and let's go into Ezekiel 37 and verse 7. Now, this is something that the Christian church goes into, and they try to apply it unto everybody in the world. But again, in the same chapter of Amos, 3 verse 2 says that he has not known any other family other than the Israelites. So this can only be talking about the Israelites. Let's get verse 7. And if I got time, I'm going to go into Romans, the 11th chapter. But let's get verse 7 here. It says, so I prophesied as I was commanded. Okay, so here we go again. We we just pulled that a scripture in John 12 that some people heard thunder and some people heard the voice. Ezekiel was a prophet that was commanded to prophesy, so he was given the ability, which Paul talks about that. Pray that the Most High gives us the utterance unto that door. Well, what is that door? It's talking about prophesying. Okay, so it says, so I prophesied as I was commanded. And as I prophesied, there was a noise, and behold, a shaking, and the bones came together, bone to his bone. And this is where I'm going to stop because, again, Christianity tries to apply this to everybody else, but we see many times in the scriptures where bone to bone is talking about people dealing with, people that are dealing with each other that are of the same bloodline. Let me give you a perfect example. If let's say that you needed to do a blood transfusion or a liver transplant, you have to have the same kind of blood type from whatever person that is going to give you the blood or the lung in this example. You can't have like O positive and then get, AB blood, for example. Okay. And, another example is, me, I watch a lot of like crime documentaries. And so, one thing that comes to mind is when these scientists are digging up bones, they are able to tell which bone belongs to the male species, and they are able to tell which bone belongs to the female species based upon the characteristics. The pelvis is one of them, and then ribs. One species has more ribs than the other. But the point here is this: is if you try to put together a skeleton of a female with male bones, it's not going to happen. Okay, I bring this up to present to you that the bones that are mentioned in Ezekiel 37 could only go together if they were at one point a part of the original body. Does that make sense? Okay, and we see throughout the scripture this this being the case. Okay, now I'm gonna go ahead and get some scriptures here. What did Adam say? Bone of my bone, flesh of my flesh, flesh of my flesh. KJV Genesis. Genesis 2 and 23. It says, and Adam said, this is now bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh. And she shall be called woman because she was taken out of man. And so here we see a perfect example of bone of my bone going into a relation. All right, because we know that Eve came from Adam. So the scripture, Ezekiel 37, which is used by the Christian church, doesn't apply to everybody else. Okay, let's get another example of it. Laban. Laban said the same thing. Laban, bone of my bone. Let's get that. Oh, yeah. Genesis 29:14. And Laban said to him, surely thou art my bone and my flesh. And he abode with him the space of a month. So this is talking about two people that were related, right? Because what what ended up happening when Isaac died? He told Jacob that he didn't want him to marry anybody from the strange land that they were in. So what did he tell him to do? He said he charged his servant, go and make sure that my son Jacob is married unto people that are related unto me, and that's exactly what he did. Laban, if I'm not mistaken, and correct me if I'm wrong, I'll take the correction. If I'm not mistaken, it was Jacob's uncle. Okay, and so when Jacob's uncle sees his nephew, when Laban sees his nephew Jacob, he says, "Surely thou art my bone and my flesh." So hold on a minute. We know that Jacob isn't the son of Laban, right? So what does Laban mean by this? He's expressing a relationship here, okay? Because through blood they were related. So I've given two examples here in the scriptures that talk about bone of the bone being a representation of relationship. Okay, so now with that understanding, it says, so I prophesied as I was commanded, and as I prophesied, there was a noise, and behold, a shaking, and the bones came together, bone to his bone. All right, these scriptures always point to Israelites. The Most High is not going to create a Frankenstein monster. Okay, it's not going to happen. In the book of Romans, matter of fact, we'll go ahead and grab it. I'm kind of pressed for time, but we'll go ahead and grab it. Where we at? Romans 11. Dang, what happened to this big old font? Big, read that says the words that shall confess for the heart, for the scripture. Unless you shall be sent. Israel's not cast away. Salakia 11. What is then? Israel has not obtained it. Salakia, but then they have stumbled. I speak to you, casting away fruit. Right here, Romans 11 and 17. If some of the branches be broken off, and thou being a wild olive tree, were grafted in among them, and with them partakers of the root and fatness of the olive tree, boast not against the branches, but if thou boast, thou bearest not the root, but the root thee. So this is another stronghold that Christianity has on our people, where they tell us, oh, all the nations were grafted in. No, because just in the same way that you can't put one body together from different bones, you can't do that. You know, when you go into this word here, let's get it grafted in. Okay, being grafted in. It says to cut in for the sake of inserting a scion. Now let's get that word scion. Look up. And check this out. Scion, a descendant. The process involves grafting a section of the chosen tree onto the onto the what? Onto the rootstock of the same species. Even the definitions show you that. And even more so it says the scion of an aristocrat, which means a descendant, offshoot, an heir, a successor, child, offspring, an ancestor, a predecessor. It's talked about progeny. So I bring up Romans 11 and 17, and I bring up Genesis and Ezekiel because both are examples that show us that the coming together of the bones, the grafting back in, was always dealing with the Israelites. Yahweh Bahashem Yahushai does not change. Until the next one, shalom.